Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kimberly Kuhman, and I serve as the Executive Director of the National Spasmodic Dysphonia Association. I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us this afternoon for this webinar. We've started to do this with the unusual times that we're in, and we're doing weekly webinars, and I think it's been well received, and we hope that you find it helpful. In addition to the webinars with Dorothy, we are also hosting webinars with Christy DeLuca, who is a speech-language pathologist, and we will be having one with her on Thursday. Also, we are doing virtual support sessions. Since our local support groups cannot meet in person right now, we have taking those online, and we have another one coming up on Saturday. And this is all new for us as an organization, and it's, I think, for everyone during this time, it pushes us to try things that we've never done before. And it's been really fun, actually, and I appreciate Dorothy and all of her willingness to help us with these webinars. So let me introduce her officially. Dorothy Tannahill-Moran is our speaker today. She's a career and life coach. She's an author and a speaker who guides people who are working to remove barriers from both professional and personal success. She does have a unique perspective and a deep knowledge on career development, which was forged by 21 years of management at the Intel Corporation and also 12 years as a coach. Dorothy also has spasmodic dysphonia, which gives her an insight into the challenges facing those in the voice community. She writes articles for the NSDA website. She's presented at the symposium along with leading a support group in Kansas City. And also when she travels, she's presented at other local support groups. And we appreciate her presenting the topic today, Emerging from the Quarantine, a New You. Dorothy?
Hi. Well, thanks for being here. Kind of a fun topic. And I'll warn you right now, this is going to be a little bit like drinking out of a fire hose because I've got a lot of content and with lots of links. Now, not all of the links are in the slides that we're going to show today because they were just so long. And what Kim is going to do when she puts the recording up is she's also going to make sure that the PDF that you can download has every single link to the things that I'm going to be talking about. The inspiration for this came when we, I'll just say, started into the quarantine and stay-at-home orders. And I was noticing in social media, people talking about being bored, didn't know what they were going to do with themselves, eating because they were bored, and a whole host of other things. So what inspired me was, well, obviously a lot of people have more time on their hands than they used to. Now, I do recognize that varies. For younger family members, as an example, they may be working from home and trying to juggle education, online education for their kids. So it could be that for those people, if that's you, you may not feel like you've got that much extra time. But I'll just say the general observation that I've made is that most people have additional time on their hands, even if they are working from home. So what I ended up thinking about was this issue, and I see this a lot of times as a coach, is people putting off working on things that will really benefit them personally, either personally or professionally. So what I ended up doing was going, well, wait a second. A lot of people now have time. This would be a great time for some personal development and professional development. What I then did is I amassed all of these resources to give you some different things to consider doing and learning so you can upgrade yourself, upgrade your skills. So that's where this came from. So with no further ado, Kim, if I could get you to open up and screen share the slideshow. So the first thing that I talk about is learn some emotional intelligence, better known as EQ. EQ, and I know for some people this is like kind of a new term or it's something they're not really clear on. Essentially, EQ or emotional intelligence is how well and how effective you can interact with other people. And I think a lot of times when people hear that, they think, I get along with most people great. Yes, most of us do. But do you get along with difficult people? How do you deal with conflict? What about constructive confrontation? What about your ability to read and assess people's body language and micro expressions? All of those kinds of things will cause you to interact with people much more effectively. So why not use this time to learn those types of things? So what I've done here is I've come up with some great resources for you to learn some of these things. They're online learning. And again, if you're sitting here going, okay, fine, I get it, effectively interacting with other people, what exactly does that mean and what should I be looking for? Well, start with better communications, dealing with conflict, constructive confrontation, or sometimes it's called constructive communication. And there's this first one here from the Muse that's got 45 free online classes, and they include communication and conflict management. So it's a great resource. It's free. You don't have to, pay for your classes, any of this sort of stuff. And trust me, I think the weak spot most people have is knowing how to effectively deal with conflict, how to confront people with issues that have cropped up and feel comfortable, feel effective, and feel like they're maintaining the relationship with the individual. So that's what you're really trying to achieve. Now, you can continue to optimize all of those skills, but I would look for those things. Now, you can go to this website called Udemy, and honest to gosh, it will take you until the last day of your life to get through 100,000 online classes, but they've got everything, and certainly a whole host of classes in the area of emotional intelligence, dealing with the kinds of things that I just mentioned. So you do pay for those classes, and they do vary based on the length of the class, what it is, and who is teaching it. And there's a whole host of experts. You can learn everything from playing a guitar to how to write macros in Excel, and of course, emotional intelligence. And then the last item that I've got listed here is if you're sitting there going, look, if I'm going to put in the time and learn something, I want it to matter. I want to be able to get a certificate or a degree. Go for it. Here's a link to, it's actually an aggregate site, meaning they bring in a bunch of links, and everything that's listed here are colleges that have degrees and certifications with their online classes. So there you go. You could expand that big brain of yours into an even bigger brain. Now, while we're at it, and still in the area of emotional intelligence, I could list a ton of books, but these are my 4 favorite ones. And I would suggest that if you haven't read one of them, you at least get one and read it while we're still in quarantine. Last week, I talked about change and transition, and I referred to William Bridges. This is the book where that information comes from, is to help you understand and how to make sense out of life's changes. He talks about your transition or your emotional response to changes that are taking place. Great book. It's been a Bible of mine for decades. The next book is called Presence, Bringing Your Boldest Self to Your Biggest Challenges. Now, Amy Cuddy is a scientist, And she's done a lot of studies on people's behavior and what optimizes their behavior. If you're interested, there is a TED Talk that she did that inspired this book. But it's all about the different types of very simple things that we can do, such as how you stand, where you put your hands on your body, and this kind of thing that will literally give you greater self-confidence. And that's wonderful. The third book here is called Sway. Again, it's always difficult for me to pick a favorite. I suppose it's like a child, but this is a great book. It's talking about how we make decisions. It's called The Irresistible Pull of Irrational Behavior. We like to think the decisions come from a rational, logical place in our brain. Turns out that this farthest thing from the truth. And they give you all of the evidence for it. But they show you all of the various places where we are making emotional decisions day in, day out, not just the individuals, but businesses, in interviews and football player selection. Pick one. It's all about connection to other people. Great book. Now, this one sounds like I'm giving myself a plug here on this fourth one, but what I wrote here was a book on managing up. But it's not just managing up. This takes the perspective of looking 360 degrees at yourself and at your boss. Whether or not your boss is good, bad, or indifferent, this will help you work with this other person way more effectively than you are now. So it teaches you a number of things to consider, things like learning style, things like how to figure out the best way of interacting with them. So here you go. These are also books that will up your skill set in emotional intelligence. Now, shifting gears just a little bit, one of the things that's the most difficult for a lot of people is to figure out a career direction. Figuring out what you want to do when you grow up is as hard at 18 as it is at 60. And trust me, people are working longer and longer because in some cases they need to, in other cases they love to. So your big question should be, okay, so where do I start? Well, I've got a couple of different suggestions for you. First of all, there are a ton of personality assessments. Not all of them have an occupational report that comes with it, meaning you take the assessment and then it starts equating various aspects of your personality to specifically analyzed occupations. This, I think, is great because it does both those two things. And I think it's great to be able to get a personality assessment, but it's even better if you can do something with it. This will help you with that. Now, also understanding yourself is one of those things where a lot of times when people fill out these personality assessments, it's like, yeah, great, fine, I already knew that. And I get it. I totally get it. It's a question of, okay, now that you have this information, what are you going to do with it? Well, one of the things that you can do with it is to figure out other people and how you can work more effectively with them. Sounds like emotional intelligence to me. But also to figure out the kind of work that's best for you. Myers-Briggs, as good as you can get. There's a couple of ways to approach this. There's books that you can buy where it steps you through the assessment and then gives you career recommendations. There's also some online assessments that do the same thing with Myers-Briggs. So all you have to do is Google it, but there'll be a link here as well. So you've got two different routes to go there. An online assessment and a book, maybe both. Now, the next one is a huge site for being able to explore various details of literally thousands of occupations. I have an occupational book at home that's got 20,000 occupations in it. It's very, very incomplete. So if you're sitting there going, I don't even know where to start, well, understand that most people are only exposed to about 150 occupations. Doctors, lawyers, the things that we come in contact with, our family members, this kind of thing. By the time you add all of that up, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of 150. My estimate is there's probably about 40,000 occupations and growing. Therefore, there's a lot out there for you to explore, and it's important for you to do the exploration because, and here's a very important point, a job search is not the way to ascertain the very best career path for yourself. It's how to get a job. It's not how to get a career. And that oftentimes is the suggestion that your Uncle Fred's going to tell you, oh, well, just look for a job and you'll find a career. It's like, please don't do that. This is a decision and it impacts a big, huge part of your life. So be very judicious about it. And this site is great because it allows you to type in all kinds of terminology and it will pull up jobs, occupations related to the terminology. So if you're interested in something like medical records, go in there, type in medical records, and see the various occupations related to that terminology. It's wonderful for all kinds of exploration. It gives you more detailed information about the content of the job, the requirements for getting those jobs, the task, how you spend your time, the list goes on and on. It's a very in-depth site. Now, one of the things that I hear a lot, especially on social media, social websites, is people going, okay, well, aren't there any jobs out there for those people with spasmodic dysphonia or vocal cord issues? And the answer is, yeah, absolutely. But you have to be willing to do some research. But one of the things that I did for you is I created a list of 40 jobs, and in some cases, it's what I would call an occupational area, like engineers as an example. And under that, there's copious amounts of other detailed occupations under that. So in some cases, it's specific jobs, and in other cases, it's a job category, an occupation category. So if you are thinking, gee, I'm having a lot of difficulty in the job that I'm in, understand that no matter what, you are going to have to use your voice. You are going to have to speak to people. That's how life works. But there are some occupations that really don't require as much as others do. It's interesting how so many of people with SD get into customer service jobs, as an example. It's like, no, that's highly interactive. So it's just the opposite of this. Take a peek at the list. It's a great place to get started. Now, I've talked about your emotional intelligence. I've talked about some personal development. I've talked about figuring out some new careers and heading you in the direction of research. Here's the next one. Always be in a job search mode. If you've got extra time, you should use it to start looking for a job. And that's even if you are perfectly satisfied with the job that you've got right now. But there's some magic that takes place when you're always kind of in a job search mode. And that is willingness to make change. If you're constantly looking, and this isn't like you need to spend an additional 40 hours a week just looking for a job, but be prepared and be looking and examining. You are going to be more apt to make a change if you're dissatisfied or if your job situation shifts, which it oftentimes does. So here's some things I suggest for you to do. Now, these don't have links with them, so what you see is what you get. Update your resume. I'm guessing most of you out there probably have to blow the dust off of your resume. So get it up to date. And of course, that's for people that might be looking for an opportunity. Not everybody who's watching this is. Go in, update, or set up your LinkedIn profile. Understand that over 80% of all hiring managers and recruiters use it to either find candidates or to validate candidates. Also on LinkedIn, as well as Indeed, there's job listings, and these are what's called an aggregator, kind of like that one website that aggregated online college degree programs. These go out and continuously scoop up job postings from all kinds of boards and companies. So either one of these are great places to look for job listings. And assuming that you've updated your resume and you've updated your LinkedIn profile, apply for a couple or apply for 40. I mean, like I said, there's something kind of magical that starts taking place when you end up doing this. One of the other things you should consider doing, and I think this is one of the things that people tend to get bad habits about, is update your contact list and then get in contact with these people, especially the ones you haven't spoke to in a while. Because more than likely, your next opportunity is going to come with and through other people. So you don't want to be predatory. You don't want to only contact these people if and when you've got the need to look for a job. Maintain your relationship, maintain contact. And of course, send out inquiries to people, that you haven't been in contact with for a long time. I did that one time in LinkedIn, contacted a bunch of people that I used to work with at Intel and other places, and they loved it. And they're going to love you, especially now because we all can stand a little bit more contact right now. The last thing is what I call general good things to do. If you've got time on your hands, now is the time for you to tackle all of those low priority things on your to-do list. And we all have them. It might be as simple as cleaning out the silverware drawer in the kitchen, but we all have things that it's like, okay, when I get the time, I'll do it. Well, more than likely, you've got the time. Get to those low priority items so you can check them off and feel good about yourself. Clean out and organize your files. I don't know about you, but it's like somehow those things just grow and mushroom overnight. But I end up with a lot of documents, a lot of files, both in my desk and on my computer. And I try to clean those out at least once a year. If you haven't cleaned yours in at least for a year, I would suggest consider doing that. You will be more efficient. You'll feel better about, I'll just say, the order of your universe if you do that. Another great thing to consider doing is to learn how to optimize your laptop, your computer, and such things as Office Suite applications. I'm sure, like me, you probably know people who it's like, yeah, I've got that on there, but I don't know how to use it, so I do these other things. And it's like, shame on you. It's going to be on your computer. Learn it. So there you go. You've got all kinds of things to put your extra time to good use. You've got looking for a career, looking for a job. You've got upping your game with emotional intelligence. And let me tell you, if there's going to be one thing you should do, it would definitely be learn conflict management and constructive communication. We're all weak on those things. We can all stand to improve. And of course, all kinds of other good things in there. Go discover the udemy.com site. They just have a ton of great stuff. So with that, Kim, I turn it back to you.
Thank you, Dorothy. I appreciate it. And I think we all have a whole list of ideas and things that we can look into. I know there's a few that I made note of. As Dorothy mentioned, we will have the list with the links available on our website. We will also have the recording from this webinar on our website too. And you can find past recordings of Dorothy's presentations there too. So with that, we look forward to seeing you all again very soon. And thank you, Dorothy, and thank you all for joining us. Be well and be safe. Thank you. Bye.
Okay.